country. I'm your host, Coin Icarus. This is the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. We are in season 3. This is episode 38. And we're sponsored by the Crypto Cloaks for all your 3D printing needs. I hope everybody's having a great week. We've got a very cool interview with the gentleman who designed the original Honey Badger, which is used by CoinKite. I'm talking about Mr. Zlock. Anyways, he's a big proponent of Bitcoin and just a really down-to-earth guy, so I really wanted to sit down and have a chat with him. And it, even though it should have probably taken the normal path that my that my podcast does, it just didn't. Like, we just totally broke right into conversation. It was really cool. Anyways, so before we get started with that, though, we are going to talk about dollar cost averaging and Swan Bitcoin. For anybody who is interested in dollar cost averaging and who wants to be purchasing Bitcoin but doesn't want to be spending their time constantly watching the charts and listening to traders that they really have no idea whether these people are credible or not, and you kind of just want to put this in a passive sleep mode where you're simply just accumulating and hodling, being able to transfer that Bitcoin out to your own private address. So if you're interested in doing that and that falls in your wheelhouse, then you are looking for Swan Bitcoin. With Swan Bitcoin, the three main takeaways are we can do automatic withdrawal from a bank account, automatic purchases of BTC. You can time them based on your when you receive your check. You can do it let's say once you can do it once a month, or you can do it per pay period as well. There's lots of options for you to be able to customize how you purchase. And you could automatically withdraw to your chosen address. So if you're interested in a Bitcoin-only platform that is doing the great work of helping onboard people, then you definitely want to check out Swan Bitcoin. I'm going to have the link to their website in the show notes. All right, my peeps. Here is my chat with Zlock. Thank you very much for joining me on the Fun with Bitcoin podcast. I'm your host, Coin Icarus, and joining me is a gentleman that I've been following on Bitcoin Twitter for a very long time, and he is, according to his bio, he is Honey Badger class of 2011, and he founded and is currently the chair of 2B4CH. It's a think tank and industry advocacy group assisting industries and governments in harnessing Bitcoin and blockchain technologies. His name on Twitter is @Zlock, and I totally get along with this guy, and I absolutely wanted to sit down and shoot the Bitcoin shit with him and have him on my podcast, and I'm so proud that I got him to come on. So, Zlock, I really appreciate you coming on my podcast. Welcome.
Well, the pleasure is mine, and I'm happy that you're honored. But I'm the one honored to be on your show.
Well, I appreciate it. But I just find that you're one of the most you're a very down to earth guy on Twitter, at least, because we don't know each other in real life. But like on Twitter, you're by far one of the I find a very like a signal account for me anyways, and you always I find that I'll have like certain conversations and you'll come in and be that kind of voice of reason, or be that person that makes the comment that makes me think, what, he's got a point. So I appreciate that, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm really definitely not like that in real life. I have a very short temper. I'm super easily triggered. So I try on Twitter to, because I like a long time ago when I signed up, it was people were posting photos of cats and everything, and I was thinking this is really a terrible format. It was very, very short. It was like 140 characters back then, right? But now I'm starting to think this is the format that everybody should be using, because it forces you to be concise. And if you want to be concise, I mean, you need to think. And if you're thinking, then you're less, hot-headed. You actually have to think about what you're going to say, right? So it's that wisdom of turning your tongue 7 times before you say anything. And with Twitter, this is what it is. So instead of jumping into the argument and fighting, you're starting to think, okay, so what is the message that I really want to be? But in real life, it's never like this. It's terrible.
It's funny that
You'll see. Just
oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, I cut you, but you'll see. Like, drop me any kind of trolling during the discussion, and you'll see that I get all angry, like I'm all red and everything.
Well, I'll tell you though, I think that there's not enough people that turn their tongue 7 times on Twitter. That kind of
I agree.
Too many T's.
I agree. I think it's really terrible because there is such a waste of time and energy from really interesting people. And at the end of the day, everybody's blocking everybody. And in a way, if I want to put my conspiracy hat for a second, I think it's done on purpose by certain people.
Sometimes I think the same thing. I genuinely do. How could I say this? Like, I often think, am I just being trolled? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's
but
always in the
by someone that I actually like and respect, and then now is he trolling me? But why? And what would be the motive? What would be the ultimate motive of that person, building some kind of reputation, being a nice person, and then now starting to troll me just so that I look stupid, or so that I dox myself, or that I make other people look stupid. It comes very regularly, but it's waves. It's I think it's when the price goes up or something. I don't know.
So speaking of trolling, I mean, usually my format is we dive into your rabbit hole story, but since you and I have a good flow together, we're gonna continue on this path and then dive into the rabbit hole story. But okay, so speaking of trolling, the whole, I mean, obviously, the blacklist versus blocklist debate, and that that PR, right? So I mean, was that a social attack, or was that a troll on the devs, or?
I honestly think it was a social attack. I just posted as a response to whatever, I forgot his name, Lombroso.
I have your tweet.
A conversation from 2018, and I was surprised that it was so long ago. And I'm thinking, if you are motivated to destroy Bitcoin, you have all the time in the world. Like, of course, you want to do it efficiently, but you know that it's going to be a long battle. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm thinking, back in the days, there was this thing where they were saying, oh, we need to know who has the commit and who are the devs, and people were like, but why do you care? But it's very important, blah blah blah. And then suddenly now you have someone posting something really stupid just so that people start calling out each other, so that you know who is involved, who is responsible. And in a way, I don't think it was a troll. I think it was seizing the opportunity of political correctness and that whole cancel thing for something that is actually deeper. I might be completely paranoid, but I think you kind of have to be paranoid first in the world in general, but in the Bitcoin world, you must think like, who benefits from it.
I want to read your tweet because I saw it this morning and I was like, absolutely. So you wrote, this was back in 2018. You wrote, "Don't be fooled. Bitcoin still is and will continue to be for a long time in the then they fight you phase. Divide and conquer takes many forms." And this is, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And it kind of goes back. It made me think, okay, so because I started thinking about this probably a year ago about what phase we're in, right? Like, what phase are we in? Like, at first they laugh at you. I feel like there's still people laughing at us, but not as many. And I feel like now the numbers are moving into the more then they fight you phase. So
yeah,
my question to you is, randomly, how long do you think that phase goes for? It's a tough call,
Yeah, it's a very tough call. I think it's to me, and this is what I'm trying to do with 2B4CH, by the way, so that we can also branch into this. What I'm trying to tell people who could feel that they are threatened by Bitcoin. And by the way, I put on the thing Bitcoin and its blockchain, because to me they're not mutually exclusive. I think there is a lot of things to do with the byproduct, but that's another story. But what I'm trying to do is to tell them, if you're fighting it, you're going to lose. If you're afraid of it, you're just going to get more afraid, because it's going to become more powerful. What you want to do is to appropriate it to yourself. It's the whole game theory thing, right? I think the game theory is at every level onboards a wider range of people. So my first game theory, and now I'm going all over the place, but it's okay because I'm going to answer your rabbit hole thing. My first game theory thing was the article in Gawker about Silk Road. And what triggered me that I was thinking, okay, this is amazing, and I need to start following this because it's really amazing. It was because if you give, let's say, a secret, whatever, you give a secret to someone who doesn't really care about the secret, they might be incentivized because they like you, they want to help you. Maybe they don't want to look stupid, they don't want to look mean, whatever. But at the end of the day, the secret has no value for them. If the secret is their secret, and you know that they want to protect it because it's their own interest, then you can rely on it. If in the case of Bitcoin, for example, the people who are making the money on Silk Road are the people who are doing the crime, and on the other hand, the people who are benefiting from it and spending the money are the people who are doing the crime of enabling the crime, because they're like, sorry, my computer just goes to sleep sometime.
No worries.
Then you know that both of them will want to protect whatever they're using. The tool that they're using
Absolutely.
becomes the responsibility of both sides. And this is the moment when you're starting thinking, it's like the US dollar in that case. The US dollar, I know that the government will protect it. I know that the stock market will protect it. And I know that the whole, drug cartels and Russian mafia will protect it. So this is what gives it value in a way, that I know that there are lots of different people who don't necessarily see eye to eye. They don't necessarily like each other, but they all have one interest in common, which is to protect it. And what I was thinking about Bitcoin when I saw Silk Road was, you're starting to see like a very fringe minority of people, but there are people who are not necessarily together. It's not like a group. You can't attack one particular group. You have to attack the drug dealers on one hand, maybe their suppliers on the other hand, the distributors on a completely different part of the world, and the consumer. And if you have like that ecosystem that is using Bitcoin in that case, you're starting to think it's going to be very solid. And they have enemies. They have enemies in common, but they actually they have to be allied together, even though they have nothing in common. So what I'm trying to do, to go back to the original conversation, is to convince people that they have an interest in adopting it and harnessing it for their own advantage, whether they're bankers, whether they are politicians, whether they're central bankers. I do believe that it, like the whole, it's good for Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
I do believe that everything is good for Bitcoin. The bigger, the better. And so I want Peter Schiff to jump on board. I want, Jack from Twitter, Cash App to jump on board. But in a way, I also want the Fed to jump on board, because they're not going to be my friends, but they're going to be my allies.
Yes.
And if they are my allies, then I'm benefiting. I don't care if they're my friends, because then I benefit, because I know that if they benefit, they have no other choice than to make me benefit as well. And and the problem with that is that there are still a lot of people who are thinking, I can only benefit if I destroy it. And I'm trying to tell them, you're not going to destroy it. Of course, I don't have a magic ball that tells me the future, but I'm pretty confident you're not going to be able to destroy it. So you might as well jump on board as soon as possible.
So, so would we say opposing factions protect the value of the medium of exchange?
Something like that.
Something like that?
And
okay.
Whether they're opposing or they have nothing in common because they don't care about each other. But it's the whole concept of open source, right? If everybody is looking at something, it's very difficult to attack it. It's very difficult to challenge it in any way because everybody's looking at it. And to go back to your original question, because now like the whole circle of 2 hours of rambling. So now I'm reaching the end of my 280 characters. To answer your question, I think there will be a tipping point when there will be some very big players that will be adopting it, and that will be the moment when people say, okay, it makes sense. We might disagree on many things, but it does make sense. Therefore, let's stop fighting it. We thought it would be Wall Street, but it's not Wall Street. It's more like the BIS or the Fed. It's more at that level. What is interesting is that each country is different. And if we want to explore my theory, my pet theory about the world, I think it's going to be when the GAFA or the GAFAM will be adopting it, that they will say, that's it. This is our stuff. And now we're like officially becoming nations, and we don't care about the official nation state because we can do whatever we want. And this is where I think that Libra is not first, it's not dead, and I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's terribly presented, maybe on purpose, but the whole idea is they want to say we are a nation, we do whatever we want, and we plug ourselves directly into Bitcoin. Therefore, we don't have to, we don't have to answer to anybody. As a private company that wants to become, like a stateless nation.
Yeah, I think, it's really scary, right? Because how many users are there on Facebook? Like 3 billion?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I mean, let's be honest. If they were all to sit there and use Libra and it gets pegged to Bitcoin, it's like, this is, I mean, that is a massive ecosystem. Exactly.
And of course, Facebook doesn't want to use. That's another tweet that I wrote when people were saying, but how come he's not just saying we're going to use Bitcoin from now on? Of course, he's not stupid. He wants to make money. He doesn't want to use the money of the people. He wants to make his own money. That will be the gateway to go in and out. And in the background, he will be like enabling people to use Bitcoin, but cashing out, instead of cashing out in dollars or spending in dollars, you will be spending in Libra wherever you are. And Facebook will make their commission. Everybody will be happy.
Facebook will be like a Chuck E. Cheese country. Like, I don't know if you've ever, like Chuck E. Cheese, that's what they do. They have tokens, and, you sit there and you play games and you win crappy prizes. And that's exactly what it would be. But,
Exactly. But it's like a casino. When you're in a casino, you have like,
using their chips.
You change your money. You have no window. You have no clock. They give you cheap food, and good food for cheap, and they make sure that you are in that bubble and you don't go out ever. I think this is exactly what you're doing, and the only thing that's missing is that you're still using dollars.
Yep.
For advertising, for consuming, for exchanging. But the switch will be a little bit difficult because they don't want to jump into Bitcoin directly. They want to jump into whatever they make that they will be able to control.
Libra's still a shitcoin, but
of course.
We understand. I just, I have to say it for the, just to be transparent.
Yeah, just to be sure, just to make sure.
But
exactly,
it is, like these developments, we are not going to stop them. People with people with resources and stuff like that. All we can do is better educate people, and that's it, and have them understand that, hey, it's perfectly fine that you play these games, but if you're going to actually, have a digital asset and you want to get the right one, then you definitely you want to have Bitcoin.
And it goes with the whole, the whole concept of the gold standard that becomes the Bitcoin standard. Not everybody would be carrying pieces of gold even during the gold standard. You would
That's
still
right.
have something that represents gold. So in that case, you could have Libra that represents Bitcoin, and then where is the limit? Where is the boundary between a nation state, and a stateless nation? It becomes, you have an account, you have your money with them. Like Google now is officially a medtech, no, not medtech, pharma company. They were already medtech. Now they're pharma. Apple is a bank. All the telecom companies, they're banks. They just realized that if you have a phone, you might as well pay with your phone. So if you are a bank, you should have an app, and if you are a phone provider, you should have a bank. And all those boundaries are becoming very, very blurry. But
Yes.
where they're missing something is that they are all, bending the knee in front of the state, because the state is the state, and we think, this is how it has always been, when in reality it's very recent. And I don't necessarily have anything against the state, because I'm in Switzerland, which is like the biggest democracy in the universe. So I'm very happy to be here. I think it works very well. I pay my taxes. I don't enjoy it, but I have, very good infrastructure,
Yep.
whatever. But in a way, I identify myself more as an Apple fanboy or a Google user than a Swiss citizen sometimes. So, where does it go? Where is my taxes going compared to my, I don't know how you call it, but like your user membership subscription?
Well, I mean, look, if there's anything I've learned, I'm originally from Canada, so a working
Hmm.
social system, Medicare, all that good stuff. So I completely understand that. Now I've been living in the states for 10 years, so I know what the other side of the coin is as well. There's benefits to both systems. Um,
Of course.
but what I was gonna say was that one thing I found, regardless of those services, is that the government, unfortunately, is a poor provider of those services. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that there should be no government, but what I'm saying is that we could be doing a better job, and we're just lazy and we don't. So I think that's kind of the issue there.
Hmm.
Like we just get served poorly, and we could be served better, because there is a lot of bureaucracy that doesn't need to exist. There's a whole bunch of these types of positions that don't need to exist to perform functions, and they do just to serve themselves. So it gets to be a bit of a slippery slope, and I know that that's the thing that people get afraid of. you know
Hmm. And of course, some countries are worse than others. Some countries are much better than others.
yeah.
That's the thing. I feel that I'm a libertarian, but not like 100%. I don't know. There is probably a word for it. I don't know it. Where you want to kind of, you still want representation, because you don't want to do everything yourself, but you kind of want that they're not they're not giving you orders, or they're not, deciding everything. They are representing you, and
Yes.
then, it gets shit done. Everybody can benefit from it, and the representation is useful for everybody. It's like, like a union or something. They're like the good kind of union, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it helps you not have to deal with everything. And I think this is where it's quite interesting, because without going into the whole move fast, break things, um, like Google Plus, they decided, let's make a social network, and it was bad. They didn't know what they were doing. If they asked me, I would have helped them, but back in the days,
It was terrible.
they had other things to do. Um, but but on the like, that is like the front part, the most visible part. In the background, they were saying, oh, you want to use whatever, then log in. And you want to use YouTube, but YouTube now is your Google account. Sorry. and you want to log into whatever, then use your Gmail account, and then your Gmail becomes your Google, becomes your Google Maps, become everything, and then you use Chrome, and you're saying, well, if I use Chrome, I might as well have all my bookmarks and tabs open in all my devices at the same time. And at the end of the day, they achieved exactly the same thing, except much better, but less fancy.
Oh yeah.
In a way, just efficient. And Google Plus is dead. Nobody cares.
Nope.
But the social grids where they're like really taking care of you, and observing and making sure like everything is organized is there 100% of the time. It's in your pocket. It's on your device. It's every time you travel, you're using either Google Maps or Waze or whatever. And where I think is very interesting is that personally, I don't mind it at all because I actually get a lot in return. Like anytime I want any answer to anything, I have it very properly, tailor-made, maybe too much, but okay. But every time I'm using Google Maps, I'm thinking, what amazing world we live in. This is there. It's available. It's free. I can use it as much as I want. If that is too much convenience, I'm kind of okay with it. If my government was providing me that, I would be happy to pay taxes for it.
Right? It's like, and
exactly.
And interestingly about Google, because I do have some insight into this, they take data very seriously.
Of course.
And it's like, yeah. I personally think they're evil. That's why they had to take down the sign. Not because I think they're evil, but because they know they're evil, so they had to take down the sign about not doing any evil. But I think in this type of world and the construct, the game theory that we have in our current society, I think that they've won. They know how to play the game. So
I mean, there is no doubt that
could be, is what I'm saying.
but also, and this is where it's interesting, is because there is that game theory and they're evil and everything. Now you have a choice, and usually everybody is a little bit in everywhere with the other 3 or 4 big players, because you're using Google, but you're on a iPhone. And at the same time, you're doing all your business and hosting and whatever on Amazon Web Services, and you communicate through Facebook. So, in a way, I think it's like the age of empires. Instead of having lots of little countries or lots of little kingdoms, they're just like keeping each other checked, and you're in the middle, and you can easily cross borders, go everywhere. It's really just the physical world that is very regulated and limited by boundaries. But online, you just go to one to the other, and they just acquire whoever they think would make their offer bigger, basically.
Yeah, that's true. And at this point, Google can deploy capital like
like crazy,
like any bank, like any country, pretty much. And they can, they actually have the cash for it. It doesn't even have to be borrowed. So they're really not leveraging themselves. They can actually go and pick up any company, any technology they want, which is kind of interesting, because even though it's not on the topic of Bitcoin, they've had failures, right? Like the Google Glass and like Google Plus, right? But I think that what those technologies, those failures taught them lessons that they're using going forward. So
and they will be incorporating everything that didn't work, because if it's not because it didn't work that it was bad, it just didn't work.
That's right.
So the technology, they will keep using it, except they'll put it somewhere else.
I'm gonna switch gears though.
Yes,
and
please.
go back to 2B4CH, right?
Yes.
So just if you can, you started to tell us about it, but like, so what exactly? I guess like, what does this think tank do, and who do you speak with, and I guess like, what is the the aim of this?
So ideally, I should be parading and showing off and lying and saying everything just like everybody else. I'll be honest. I aim lower than what I should, um, because I'm busy, because I give up, because um, all kinds of reasons. In general, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to make connections. So like suddenly everybody was talking about the blockchain. So you have I don't know, like Walmart and IBM announcing that they're going to put a blockchain and it will allow them to make sure that nobody has food poisoning. And you and I know that it's bullshit, because we know how it works. We know what it really does compared to, let's say, a database. We know like the fallbacks and the compromise, not the yeah the compromises that you have to make for something to work and everything. We know that it only works if it's not centralized, and of course this is like 100% centralized. Blah blah blah. But a lot of people don't understand that. Whether they're the Swiss Walmart, for example, or they're like a politician, or they're very often the bankers, because they do realize that everything is connected to money somehow. So they understand that Bitcoin is not just the money, but it's like the connector to a whole new industry. So what I'm trying to do is, by communicating with those people, um, usually one-on-one, sometimes in small private events, I try to explain to them the easiest way possible to understand, without going too much into the technology, but still explaining that it is a technology. It's not a magic wand. It is like the internet. It's a technology, but you don't have to understand everything about it. But you have to understand that suddenly, information goes faster. Suddenly, you can multiply information. These are still technological advances that those people don't necessarily understand. So what I'm trying to do is to make sure, um, if I want to sum it up, what I'm trying to do is to make sure that they are not gonna be either too enthusiastic and become stupid. And like for example, when it was like the whole ICO thing, one thing that made me very sad was that all those resources that were spent in order to regulate ICOs, because it went too fast, too far. They didn't know how to stop it. They didn't know how to control it. They knew that a lot of people would get burnt. They didn't want it to be like like a snowball effect, that it would be like eventually maybe a major crisis. So they had to work with it. They had to regulate it. They had to understand it. They had to um, I don't know, like even find uh, the proper vocabulary to address it. This, I think, is a huge waste of time. And it's something that if you understand from the very beginning, you can be more generic. You can really apply your understanding to the whole ecosystem at once, so that people really understand, and then you can derive regulations from there, instead of looking at the extremity and focus so much on the extremity that the next thing is going to be DeFi, and then the next thing is going to be whatever swap, and the next thing is going to be something else. But you need to go a little bit more to the root of it. And that the problem that you find is that if people don't know, they only look at the surface. And I'm trying to make them understand that if you look at the root and you understand the very basic fundamentals, which are very basic, like Bitcoin can be explained very easily to someone who is not technical, then you can derive the regulations and the understanding and the investment and everything, to all the extremities, without um, spending time on each extremity as an individual case. So this is a very long answer, but I hope I made myself very clear.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Okay.
you did. Yeah, no, it totally made sense. And look, you're bringing together different groups, and you're trying to essentially what it is you're trying to build a bridge to Bitcoin and blockchain, and getting them to understand how how this works, how it applies, but you're doing it in a way that is, like we'll say, closer to layman's terms.
Yes, and
So
also not in a way that will make everything go backward.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very very quick example, but when there was the dot-com bubble in
Yeah.
1999 2000, people panicked and they said, okay, that's it, the internet is over, like everything is garbage. But Amazon wasn't garbage.
Nope.
Google was not even there, but it just started in the year 2000.
That's
But
right.
people were like, even IBM, the stock of IBM went down, and people said, like computers, that's it, over. I don't want to do anything with it. And it took maybe 10 years for the internet to come back into the mainstream that was not geeky, that was not useless, that was not just for entertainment or porn, but that was actually real business. And I think that 10 years were lost. It was, maybe, it's part of the whole, anti-fragile thing. But I would like that we don't waste those 10 years for Bitcoin in the next 10 years to come.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, okay, so let me ask you this: what would you say is when you're having these sessions, with these companies or government entities? What would you say is the biggest? What? Okay, a couple of questions.
Okay.
I guess what is your biggest challenge with them? Like, would you say when explaining it? But also, um, is there a reoccurring theme in the, like, I guess in what they're asking? Like their points of confusion, are they all the same? Is what I'm saying.
Okay, so the first problem that I have, I think a lot of Bitcoiners have, is when the price goes up, everybody is focused only on the price. When the
Yep.
price goes down, everybody is not interested anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
So what you want is that it's boring. And when it's like a very slight bear market, it's easier to discuss with people because they're saying, yeah, but it's not good anymore. And you say, well, it's not good, but did you know that there are new Bitcoins issued and put into circulation every 10 minutes? Therefore, if you make a rough calculation at today's price, or now, like current price, that means there is this much money that is put from the fiat system into the Bitcoin system every 10 minutes. And that's why instead of collapsing, it's actually being stable. And then they start thinking, okay, so going going flat is not that bad. It means that there is some kind of something. And then I say, okay, so do you want to discuss about what that something is? And then we can have a conversation. But this is taking a lot of time. When it goes up, all they want is, where do I buy it? And you say, but do you want to understand? No, just do you have some? Give me some. They're like drug addicts. So this is really terrible. The second problem is, you have the same stories over and over again. Like the energy of Ireland, the fact that by the year 2000, whatever, all the energy of the world will be consumed by Bitcoin. Like the whole mining is completely bad because I read in an article written in some obscure whatever, or the Financial Times, that IBM just did something on Ethereum and it's proof of stake, therefore it's so much better, and blah blah blah. You have all those. I would qualify them as Bitcoin, like better Bitcoin or Bitcoin 2,
Yeah.
that everybody thinks they know what the next one is. And it's very frustrating because it's not like, if they're interested to discuss with you and they're asking questions, then the conversation is fantastic, because you can go all over the place and you can explore a lot of different ways to approach the same things in a very creative way. But when they think that they know better than you, and that they actually, like, they make you come to talk with them, but they want to convince you that what you're doing is wrong because they actually know better, because everything is going to be on sushi token, and Ethereum 4.0 is going to be proof of stake. And this is really difficult because you have to deconstruct before you can build anything. You have to actually undo the damage of um, unspecialized mainstream media who doesn't know what they're doing. And like one horrible enemy of Bitcoin is Forbes magazine. They're writing whatever. Like sometimes they're gonna say something really good, that is very cleverly researched, and sometimes they will go into um, just weird ramblings that my grandparents wouldn't even dare putting on paper. And the problem is, because they are a reputable source of information, depending on who you're talking with, they have read an article and you have to deconstruct everything. But on the other hand, I'm not Forbes. I'm not, the Wall Street Journal. So who am I to tell them what the truth is? And this is where it's tricky, because I'm not, I'm not Bill Gates. If I was Bill Gates, they trust me instantly, whatever I say. If I come and I say I want to talk to you about Bitcoin, they say I trust you.
But isn't
yeah.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I was gonna
No,
just...
no, I took way too much.
No, no, not at all. But it's interesting what you're saying, right? Because isn't it interesting that like financial success somehow gets equated with trust in some sense? Like you just
Yes.
said, because you're not Bill Gates, like can you really trust him? Like that does, like, one thing really has nothing to do with the other, but humans, like, it seemed to create this like gymnastic leap, you know? And it's really,
So,
it's just a perception of trust. So Forbes, for example, has like it's just a perception of trust.
of course. So one of the interesting thing is, because I started annoying people with Bitcoin from, let's say, 2013, 2014, the people that I talked with, they actually remembered. So my credibility is the fact that I have been into it for a long time. Therefore, it can't be completely wrong. Like, if you come and you say there is something that's been there for 10 years, it's one thing. If you come and you say it's been there for 10 years, and if you remember, 5 years ago I was telling you about it, and now the price is whatever, and whoever is publicly buying Bitcoin and declaring it on CNBC, then they start paying attention, and they listen to you more on how do you say, it's not a question of success, it's more a question of uh, the authority of time. I don't know how to describe it.
I kind of think I know what you mean, though, because like it's like all of a sudden it's like what you've been telling them is more meaningful.
Yes.
Even though it's like it's actually the same thing I've been telling you all along, but you just for some reason have this idea that this other source is trusted.
And if that other source went from it's a horrible scam, it's a Ponzi scheme, to yeah, it's not that horrible, then in a way you get their attention.
Yes, that's right. And it's interesting to your point, because I've only had people ask me at work about Bitcoin once they heard it on CNBC. And then
exactly, of course.
And then of course they're like, "Oh, I want to buy one. Where do I buy one?" And then I'll sit there and I'll waste the 10 minutes to explain to them, like about something like Cash App, because I know that, look, hardware wallets is out of the question. Buying non-KYC is going to be out of the question. Like, there's no point, right? Like, you're just going to lose this person. So you try to give them the easiest way that they can get their hands on it. And then you have the problem of unit bias, right? Then it becomes,
yeah, of course.
Well, one Bitcoin is $10,000, or one Bitcoin is $12,000, or $8,000, and you're just like, okay, well, you can get individual Satoshis, and then you tell them about how Satoshis are like the equivalent to a penny for $1. You try to make that leap. It's just,
yeah.
It's like people. All you need is CNBC to tell them about it, and all of a sudden they want it, but they have no idea why.
Exactly.
It's very funny.
and the next step is to go to, okay, the people who want it because they saw it on CNBC or because their cab driver told them are the people who are suddenly convinced that it's early enough that they're going to make a fortune. They're still in the get rich quick scheme thing.
Yep.
And the next step is to try to tell them basically the whole hodl thing, is to tell them like that meme of Neo and
Morpheus.
what's Morpheus. Thank you.
Yes.
Like it's you're not buying to cash out.
No.
You're buying because it's like, and one example that I give to people is going back in time. You can buy, sex.com or bank.com or switzerland.com, for whatever, $35 or $10 or whatever, and you just put a website, and you can sell ads, you can do whatever, you can use it for your email address. Even worse, like, do you have your own last name, family name.com or .ch for Switzerland? If not, would you like to go back in time and buy it so that nobody else buys it? And then after that, the question is, are you going to sell it to cash out? Like, you have whatever name you have, or you have, like, a Twitter account that is cool. Will you sell it? Will you cash out? Of course not. What you want is to have it early enough that you can use it, that it has value, that you can benefit from it, and that you're part of the whole system. And that's, I think I'm very lucky because I was interested in the whole, internet transformation, late 90s. People who were born much earlier, they were looking at it kind of like, yeah, like those super highway information thing. It's kind of bullshit. I use my fax, I use my telex, I know what I'm doing. What is all this? And the younger people, they missed it. Now they're just all into, JavaScript and front end and apps and everything. But there was a moment when it was so weird. It was really the Wild West. And that created the future, but in a way that you can look back, that you can think there was a before. And I think what is interesting with Bitcoin is to explain to people that it's still very early, but it's not early just of a pump and dump or a bubble. It's very early of a whole society transformation that might be changing how countries are, you know, discussing with each other, or how people will start saving again and not be in debt, or whatever. And from there, and this is where I'm going into the blockchain, if you have Bitcoin being successful, the blockchain is still going to be there because it's going to be there forever. So some people will be tapping into it, and suddenly you have this byproduct that is completely useless, that some people say is basically garbage, but that will be there, that people will be able to exploit one way or another. And people are creative; they will find ways to exploit it and to graft themselves and to parasite it, so that they can use this super solid, very reliable database that is very long, very slow, very useless, that is very has very small blocks that you can't put anything in it, but it's very, very reliable. And that becomes, whatever, ID cards, or whatever you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this will change the world. So then when you're starting to talk with people about buying now on Cash App, and they're saying, okay, but when do I sell? Do you think it's going to go 10 times? Do you think it's going to...
It's always
the whole idea is to say, yeah, you have to understand, it doesn't matter. What you're buying is like you're buying real estate in a world where real estate is shrinking. You're buying lands. You're buying a part of a whole system that will be huge in the world, that might be, crucial and pivotal for the whole equilibrium of the world, and you're having a little piece of it, and that piece will have fundamentally um, intrinsic value that grows. You can cash out, but whenever you cash out today, you're thinking, what if I bought earlier? Well, today is the earlier of tomorrow.
Exactly. And this is actually, something, it's interesting, right? I find that I end up losing people at it's not really meant for you to cash out because there's an ecosystem building around it. And, like you said about that meme, with Neo and Morpheus, the point is, when Bitcoin quote unquote gets to that price, you won't have to. And the whole thing is, it's not about Bitcoin's price going up, right? Its number goes sideways. It's about the fiat getting printed into, complete irrelevancy. So
Yeah.
it's like this is there's unfortunately I find like there's a lot of brainwashing that has to be undone. You know,
Yes, exactly.
when you explain this to people, and that is really the difficult part.
And
So
because it touches so many different things.
it
It's
does.
not it's not like, it would be so much easier if you say, you like Gmail? Yes. Okay. Well, use the new thing from whoever. It's the same, except the font is bigger, so it's more easy to read. And
It
people say, I know what it is. I have an advantage to move, and I'll do it. If you try to explain to people, use a Mac instead of a PC because you have less problems, and it's in the box, and they say, yeah, but it's more expensive, and you say, yeah, but you keep it for longer. Okay, whatever. You change them. But if you tell them, okay, from now on, you need to become, this is one of the things from a lot of Bitcoiners, right? You need to become a carnivore. Yeah, but like, what
like
about my life? How about everything that I think that I know? Well, yeah, you have to change everything. By the way, I'm not. I'm like super omnivorous. I want everything.
yeah, no, me
Um,
too.
I, I want the pasta. I want the meat as well. I'm not a vegan either.
No, me neither.
Uh,
But
but
I do
but
think that that narrative is funny though,
it's
because that
very
has
funny.
gone around.
And it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting because, of course, we're so lucky that we can challenge and question everything. There used to be a time when people said, cholesterol is bad, and butter is bad, margarine is good, and asbestos is the best thing in the world. And without going into politically incorrect things, like, this is better than this, and this is horrible, and this deserves to die. And the people took it for granted because, like, our grandparents or great grandparents, you told them, those people are like this because their head is bigger. Oh yeah, of course, yeah, of course, it makes so much sense. As a scientist told me, so he has a white coat, he knows what he's talking about, and he
Of
also
course.
told me that I should smoke a lot of Camel cigarettes because or Lucky Strike. I forgot which one it is. Like 9 doctors out of 10 recommend to smoke this particular brand of cigarette, right?
Well,
And they're doctors, so they know, right?
it helped with the pregnancies back then in the 1950s.
Yeah, exactly,
You know, it was
exactly. So everything makes sense, and we're so lucky now that actually people, first, because we have access to all that information, even though we have a lot of fake information and garbage everywhere, but we also have access to so much information. People are in general so much more educated if they just want to. And suddenly you start having people saying, okay, so it's not about the the meat, it's about the insulin spike. It's not about the fat, it's about the sugar. And it's not about necessarily the sugar, it's about how you deal with the sugar. And then, you know gradually you start seeing in your supermarket that they have better butter, or they have milk without lactose, or they have organic produce instead of having the super big beautiful ugly ones that have no taste. They're actually going into whatever the market asks from them. And there was this very interesting documentary called Food Inc.
yep.
I don't know if you saw that, um, where they're saying, Walmart, they're not evil. They just want to make money. If you ask them for some stuff and it makes market sense for them to stock it and to sell it and to distribute it, they will. And if everybody wants to have organic produce, they will just do that. And they don't care. And I think what is really interesting today is that we have that um, we can have that discussion. uh, we have the means, we have the platform. There are enough people who can discuss about this. I think it's so ridiculous. It's a nice parallel to what we were saying earlier about all the fighting in Bitcoin. It's so crazy that everybody is so focused on fighting all the time about left versus right, red versus blue, and it's like their life depends on it. Everybody is in the street destroying everything else from the other side, when at the end of the day, like, everybody is so lucky. It's like, even like the people starving to death in the world, there are way fewer of them. And even the people who are not happy, they're still much happier. and they have more opportunities. And I don't think I'm just being, like I don't know, like a flower power naive person, but things are getting better. Like, even if it's really horrible, and of course people are
Yes.
dying of hunger and you have wars everywhere, of course, but in general, there is so much less uh, reasons for fighting about completely useless stuff, and yet people are fighting about more and more useless stuff, like they're bored or something.
It that's exactly what it is, right? And it's also relative, right? You know, a lot of people think that they're suffering relative to their environment.
Of course.
So we have that aspect of it. Um, I want to switch topics, even though we've been going for a
Yeah, yeah,
while.
please,
But
please
I
do,
wanted
please
to
do.
I wanted to ask you about. Okay, so I just wanted to understand this correctly. Did you design the honey badger for Crypto Cloaks, the 3D printed one? What was that
Yeah.
about?
So, okay, so the story is
I ended
this.
up buying one, by the way. I love it.
You must, you must. No, they're very, very cool. It's first, it's a great honor, and second, they did a really, really good job. They look fantastic. I can't recommend enough to get one. They look so cool. Yeah, of course. Um, so the story is this. I forgot who it was, but it's easy to find out. Someone was saying, I like the Bitcoin logo, the B with the two strokes, right? But I don't like that. Basically, when I'm carrying it, in on a hat or on a T-shirt or whatever, I'm advertising that I don't care about OPSEC, and I would rather be mugged with the proverbial $5 wrench, because I'm a Bitcoiner, therefore I have everything in my hot wallet in my pocket. And so I started thinking about, I don't know if you're familiar with it, the ictis or the ictus, which is that fish that some Christian people have
Mm.
at the back of their car.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like very, very symbolized, and the origin of the ictis is when there were Christian persecutions by the Romans. Instead of having a cross, or instead of actually um, expressing the fact that you were a Christian, you would be having that fish or some kind of fish, because the acronym of ictis was Jesus Christus something something, and the fish from the miracle, and the fish symbol looks a little bit like a cross, so
Hmm.
and so Christians would recognize each other thanks to that sign, that logo, but would not expose themselves as Christian to people who don't know. And so I came up with that tweet where I said, the honey badger needs a ictus. And there started to be a conversation. We were discussing about, what kind of logo that we know looks simplified enough, like stylized enough that is not recognizable but still kind of cool. And some people participated, saying, like, this is kind of nice, this I kind of like, and everything. And the whole idea was that it should still represent, I think it's Adam Back who said it should still represent the fact that the honey badger doesn't give a fuck. So you can't just have a happy honey badger. It needs to be, like, nonchalant and saying, I don't really care, like, I'm the honey badger, right? So I came up with that little thing and I put it, and some people say, oh, it's nice. So Rodolfo Novak said, can you share it? Can you share, like, the SVG or some kind of vectorized version of it? So I put it on GitHub. I officially put a license that was open source that everybody can just grab and do whatever they want. And because he's very active into doing stuff, he started doing stickers, he started doing caps. He sent me a cap with the logo on it, and it was kind of cool. And then people started associating it to CoinKite,
Yeah.
because he was the one using it. And so the people from Crypto Cloak said, "Hey, that's kind of cool. Let's do something." Because I think it was American Hodl
Yep.
who told them you should make like a honey badger, and they said, yeah, but how, which one, what? And so they thought, oh, this one is kind of cool. And it's kind of, it goes with the crypto cloak thing, that if you have it, people would not recognize it straight away. If they enter your house, they don't see that like a big B of Bitcoin with a, the light behind it or whatever. And so they started doing this particular thing, and eventually what is, like making me super happy is that instead of being my thing that people ask permission and whatever, it just like now it has its own life on its own. It's just like going wherever. I still, print stickers and give them to people because I like it and I think it's kind of cool. But now it's becoming almost like an official logo, so it like the whole purpose is completely defeated.
Yeah.
Like there is no way that it goes without being noticed. But yeah, like the whole idea originally was to have something that doesn't have the B. I don't want to have the B of Bitcoin on me in general. I don't like it. Plus, it in a way looks so ridiculous because it's like, those rappers that have a big dollar sign. Like either you believe that Bitcoin is the future or you believe that it's a logo of a brand. I believe it's the future. So I don't want, like, I can understand that you have the Nike logo on you, but I wouldn't want to have a dollar sign. I think it's ridiculous. I think it makes no sense.
Yep.
I would rather have like a brand that is fun about it. Like the Guy Hawkes from V for Vendetta kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this is like, in terms of image, it's kind of cool. What it represents is kind of cool, and it doesn't, for a while it belonged, quote unquote, to Anonymous, and they kind of lost it, which is kind of cool because now a lot of people, from all over the all over the spectrum, everybody uses it.
Oh yeah, lots of people, and that's fantastic. Actually, I love that.
Exactly, and I really like it. And graphically, it looks a little bit like the Obey. It's like, black and white. You recognize it instantly. It's very cool. And so to me, the idea was to make a little thing like this that you can use as a gimmick, that you can use as a signature, that you can use, that if you have a sticker, you're happy to put it somewhere. You can give it away without people saying, like that B thing. And it's the honey badger. The honey badger is the coolest.
I totally agree. And for the record, also, even though none of my Bitcoin stuff actually has the B on it, or I try not to have that because of course then it's just too obvious. But I also kind of feel bad for the people because it's like a double-edged sword. You want to advertise, you want to be, it's like you want to be supportive of the ecosystem, but at the same time, you don't want to put yourself out there, for a $5 wrench attack and, stick a Bitcoin logo on your car. So stuff like that, it's like, it's very, I know it's, so I totally appreciate, by the way, the Honey Badger logo. I love it. I have one of those hats from CoinKite with that logo, so thank you.
Exactly.
And I also obviously, I have the Honey Badger from Crypto Cloaks, which may or may not have a cold card in it. Who knows?
Who knows? Nobody knows.
But yeah, man, this is. I gotta tell you, man, I'd love to have you on again. It's a super interesting conversation with you, and you can kind of go all over the place, and there's so much to it. And I feel like I still wanted to kind of get into it with you, about like philosophy and stuff, because I feel like you're not gonna have the standard views on that, but that might be a topic for a different podcast.
Yeah, I think we have to go like a Joe Rogan style for something like that.
That's
like
right.
You're on mushrooms, and like we do it at 2:00 in the morning or something.
And we have
but I do believe that okay, I do believe in luck or coincidences, but in a way, what I believe is that everything happens for a reason. I believe that there is like a huge master plan. I don't know why. I don't know, where it goes. I don't think I will ever know, but I do think that there is a master plan. I think what is really interesting with Bitcoin is that somewhere, somehow, when I saw it, I thought, yeah, it makes sense. It's part of that whole thing. I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from, but then you start looking at the the legend of Satoshi and like story behind it and blah blah blah, and you're thinking it's like I'm reading a book. Like if I was reading a book of that, I would say the author is just ridiculous. Like nothing makes sense. It's way over the top, and you can see like from a mile away that he knows about the end. It's like looking at Lost, the TV series, except with a good ending. You're thinking, yeah, okay, yeah, give me a break. But the fact that it's real life, sometimes I actually, sometimes I gain back consciousness, or I wake up in the morning and I kid you not, it's really true. I have like this epiphany, and I'm thinking, this is kind of so amazing that we are witnessing what's happening right now, because now we're like on Twitter discussing about stupid things and fighting about completely ridiculous details of nothingness, and people are being stupid, and it goes all over the place, but it will be in history books. Like it will be like the Industrial Revolution. It will be there, and we're like in the middle of it. And we don't even appreciate it.
Nope.
We're just like, yeah, number go up, and whoever is an ass, and whoever is my hero, and now today is my hero, but tomorrow is an ass, and but this is like, it's like the pyramids. It's like there is something incredible that is happening right now, and we're like front row. We're looking at it, and everything is up for grabs, and it's like I'm thinking, if there is no master plan that is like going like super deep and super wide in the whole consciousness of everything, and I'm not going to use the God word, but like going like, then there is really something happening that is going somewhere, and I'm very grateful for that. I think we're very, very lucky, and I try every day to not take it for granted.
So there's an interesting saying, closing up on that, that I read, which is, the creator did not create a staircase going nowhere. So
interesting.
That's I forget who.
Yeah, yeah.
I forget who said that, but it kind of goes to your point of, it's like Bitcoin was no coincidence.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's here. It's part of it's part of whatever plan that we can't see from within the maze.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But Yves, man, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Well, thank you.
We're gonna have to do this again sometime and just wax philosophical.
With great pleasure, and we'll do it in French.
Cool. Oh my God. Then you're not gonna get much out of me, even though I can speak in French, but it's not gonna be great.
Well, it's gonna be an interesting exercise.
We're gonna try it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for, in general, what you're doing, because you're having a show, and you're actually doing stuff that everybody should be doing, which is having a conversation, having an open conversation.
And I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope everybody enjoyed my chat with Zlok. His contact details will be in the show notes. And of course, if you want to reach me on Telegram or Twitter, I'm at CoinIcarus. If you want to shoot me an email, I am CoinIcarus at funwithbitcoin.com. Thank you all, and catch you next time.